Hey, this is Mark Richardson. I'm here at the Smart Bar at the Metro in Chicago, and I'm talking to U2. When you're recording an album, do you have a strong sense of what a U2 album is? And is it important that, are there ideas that come up that just don't feel like U2, that don't get explored because of that? Or does it feel like it could go in any direction as you're working?
We used to, for periods, we would delight in defacing our own work. And when we were recording Acton Baby, I remember saying to the band, you know, this should be the sound of four men chopping down the Joshua Tree, which was the album that came before it. And so we've moved in extremes, whereas then the last two albums we made, All That You Can't Leave Behind and Atomic Bomb, we wanted to get back to the essence of what it was to be in a band. So we've kind of fell in love with that sound for a while, for two albums, then got a little bit bored. But rather than completely defacing it, that sound on this one we took as a blueprint something like the Beatles' White Album, where on the White Album you get the sense that the Beatles could go as far out as they wanted to go. And so that was really the sweep of what we were going for with No Line on the Horizon. So there's some songs that just sound very, very different, but some songs do sound a little familiar, and that wasn't a good enough reason for us to throw them out, as long as they had some unique properties apart from that.
It does seem like connecting with a lot of people is part of the mission of what U2 is. Is that fair to say that, you know, you like to experiment and, like you say, deface what, the idea of what U2 is, but ultimately isn't it coming back to wanting to, you know,
be in the
connect with
Beatles.
as many people as possible?
Yeah, we never were shy about wanting to appeal to a wide audience, and from the very beginning, that's the way we felt about it. And I think that was born out of the sense that during our early teens, music was pretty anemic and not very interesting, and then suddenly there were these sort of beautiful rock and roll 45s that would come out. We just didn't like the idea that bland music would dominate radio and TV, and we didn't buy into this idea that good music had to be underground. I don't think that they're not mutually
It's simply not true, as it turns out. And the great lessons of the last 30 years is that the music that was supposed to be serious in the 70s, early 70s, the music that was the real music made by real musicians, turned out to be boring prog rock, and the music that was dismissed in R&B and dance music turned out to be the eternal music, the folk music of the time. And that what is truly great often is dismissed and surfaces later, and so, because it was popular, I mean, it was dismissed.
I want to talk a little bit about the new record, but I just wondered, you know, 30 years is a really, really long time for a rock band especially, and to what do you attribute that kind of longevity? How do you stay committed over that?
I think it was Chris Blackwell who founded Island Records and discovered Bob Marley, who said the thing about Bob Marley was he always felt like he was coming, never that he had arrived. And I think that we always feel like that, and despite our mouthiness on, you know, wanting to be the biggest or the best band in the world, which is really just a way of getting people to talk about us, we, in our heart of hearts, are always thinking this next one will finally get it.
I think it's unfortunate that the almost the industry wants you to have inbuilt obsolescence. You know, obviously the media are always looking for new and younger artists, but I think there's also that feeling that as you gain a bit more knowledge and you renegotiate the terms of your business with everyone, that you're getting a bit too clever and you don't get supported so much. So I think we've just been lucky. We've been able to kind of stick around without being shut out of the meeting, so to speak.
It's a shame that the Clash ended when they did, you know. and it's a shame that the Smiths ended when they did, and so many other groups that we loved that just for whatever reason weren't able to survive. And I meet occasionally some members of those groups, and you can see it in their eyes, that sense of we should be doing what you're doing, and it's that little corner of regret, and we just didn't buy into that same philosophy that, you know, bands should break up. We just thought about it the opposite way, that we fought to try and keep it together.
It seems like the biggest obstacle would be interpersonal stuff, you know, and I imagine that's got to be an issue for you guys too.
Before, I remember meeting Bob Dylan in the 80s when we were first having success, and he said, well, you know, how's this? What's this like? How are you feeling about all of this? And I remember saying, God, it is a bit different. And, you know, you do walk a bit differently, and you become a little self-conscious. And he said, try going through it on your own. He said, you know, you've got a band. A band must be a great thing to have at a time like this.
You don't seem like a particularly nostalgic band. It's pretty much what, you know, the line, no line on the horizon, makes me think of the horizon as being something that's in the future or represents what's behind you, but that sort of implies a present that you're always in. I mean, does that seem safe to say that you're not nostalgic and particularly focused on, you know, where you've been in the past? Or
the image of No Line on the Horizon is exactly as you described. It's an image about the future and wanting to disappear into it, really. And that there's no limits, no end in sight, whether it's a relationship or being in the band or whatever. Right now, there's so much fear about the future, and these are bleak economic times. People losing their jobs, people are getting angry, and I'm pleased that we've our song "Get on Your Boots" opens with the line, "The future needs a big kiss," and I hope that our optimism as a band is the right tone. For now, it's a defiant tone, and it's not naivete. And people used to think that our band's optimism was naivete, that we didn't know anything about the world. We were just 4 kids from the north side of Dublin who didn't know much about anything, and that was true. But we still weren't wrong about the world. The world is more malleable than you think. The world can change shape. You can kick it into shape. You can beat it into shape. You can kiss it and cajole it into shape. But that's an optimistic message. But now, I think people accept that we know a lot about the world, and so I hope that it has more credibility and resonance coming from us now. To have an image like that on the cover.
One thing that struck me about this record is the way that your voice sounds on this, Bono. And it sounds very much like a man in a room singing, and very, not very processed, and you can hear cracks and screeches in it. And was that a decision that you made that seemed appropriate for the songs? You're speaking of how the songs sort of determine things, but is there that level of intimacy with the vocals? And I was, you know, going back to something like Zoo Station and how, you know,
processed.
Yeah, when you first heard that, it was like, wow, you know, what is this sound? And now it's like this sounds striking almost in the other direction.
Soul singing, that's what it's about for me. Whatever that soul is, it's I don't fully understand, but it's something to do with abandonment. And cool is a real constraint. I met Lou Reed years and years ago in the 80s. We were all hanging out with them. And he said that he'd grown up in the 50s in America. And cool was a very big thing, to be cool. And he thought it was a real constraint on an artist, even though he admitted he was very good at it. And I responded that I didn't think it had been any constraint in his work, because he's gone places no one else has ever gone in terms of, you know, a level of honesty. Mm. But I knew by the wry smile on his face that he knew I'd never have that problem. and that was my greatest strength.
What about the role of Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois? I mean, they got some songwriting credit on this record. You know, the four of you can think of musical ideas together, but what's it like to invite someone else into your circle? How did that process work with them in terms of...
Do you want to take this one out?
Sure. Hi, Mark. Nice to meet you. Well, Brian and Dan have been kind of part of our little creative commune for quite a while. We first worked with them on Unforgettable Fire. So this time around we brought them in as co-writers. And we wanted to try and get the material up to a level that would produce a result very quickly, so we could move more quickly rather than work on things over a longer period of time. And I think in the very early sessions, we found the music got us to a different place, and it's the essence of what this new record, No Line on the Horizon, is about. So I think it worked out really well for us, and we're happy to have them as part of our band.
How are we doing on time? Or is it...
Can I say something
Sure,
about Pitchfork?
please. Yes.
Why we wanted to be with you today, apart from to talk about ourselves, which is really, really hard, and sell you our wares, is because what I'd like to think we have in common is that people who go into Pitchfork are people who take music very seriously, and without being pious or po-faced or just a boring bastard about it, we do too. Even people who loathe us and can't stand the sound that we make, they know at least that we see music as a kind of sacrament, something sacred. And we live in a moment when music is becoming less and less a precious thing in the culture. It's like tap water. It's background music, and I just wanted to say that to pay respect to your audience, because they're people who really want to know and have a curiosity about what's right and what's wrong, what's great and what's happening, and we respect that.
Oh, thank you very much.
But you know, the internet's the problem. It's like these, you know, they're on the internet.
Oh, you're kidding.
Did you know that?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.